Log analysis is essentially like, well, understanding, analyzing, getting useful information from logs. And since the logs are pretty much ubiquitous as part of big data in our everyday lives, these can cover like a very wide range of context, both in personal and professional areas. So, for example, these could include like sign in, sign out logs, like HTTP stuff. These are very common in NCL. You can track API calls, trading in crypto or financial instruments. I believe that counts as well. If you're getting into quant stuff or anything like technical trading related, that's going to be the kind of skill set that we're developing here is going to be really useful. There's also like debug and error logs and so much more. I like to joke that one of the best way you can learn about log analysis is actually by running a Minecraft server, because if you've ever like created like a Minecraft server and then one of your mod packs stops working because of like a malformed loot table or something, like it's so frustrating. And once you learn how to read the logs, it becomes so much easier. Okay, so my problem-solving process whenever I encounter a log analysis challenge follows this process, which is supposedly coined by physicist Richard Feynman. You write down the problem, you think very hard, and you write down the solution. That was a bad attempt at a joke. Sorry. This is the actual. This is a process that I actually recommend. So first, you have to understand what the problem itself is asking for. So usually, it's asking something like fairly simple, like how many requests were of this type, that sort of thing. If you've done log analysis in this NCL individual game, you'll know what I'm talking about. But usually, that shouldn't be too hard. The second step, yeah, sometimes you need to clean up that data set. For example, last season's NCL for the hard challenge, you had to like analyze stock tickers and such, but they added some formatting where it was dividing each column with like a pipe sign, so you had to like manually clean that up or use a script to clean that up before you could actually process the data. And finally, like the actual meat of log analysis is just paring down that data set with the toolkit I'm going to show you until you finally get the data that you want. Yeah, using AI is very much encouraged. I know I would have never got through my first NCL without ChatGPT, and that's a I would say it's not even that much of an indictment on my skills. Like I was very much a beginner back then. But no, what I mean to say is that since Mr. Sam Altman of OpenAI has graciously given us ChatGPT Plus throughout May, if you're participating in Team Game, go and use that. So, since this is going to be our level one workshop, I'm just going to be concentrating on creating one-liners, so to speak. For level two, I'm going to discuss this with the officer team later, but we're thinking about like I was putting up the suggestion that maybe we do some bash scripting, DevOps stuff, but for now, just one-liners, stuff that's directly related to NCL. So, and these are some of the main commands that you'll see that'll help you in that endeavor. So this section's gotta be kind of tedious. I'm sorry. It's just showing you like the standard functionality of these commands, some of the common tags you encounter. I am. Do you want me to go in to these in detail? I don't think we need to actually. Like, I will just spend a few seconds on each slide for the purposes of a recording. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so TRN said you probably won't use these as much in NCL specifically, but they'll probably be very useful in your everyday like Linux usage. With head and tail, it's pretty simple. You're just outputting like once you've sorted all your information, you're outputting like the top number, and that's gonna be pretty useful. So cut, this is something you'll be using all the time. So you want to divide everything into fields, and these fields are going to be divided by some. Uh, yes. Okay. Yeah, so stream editor, like this is something like I would consider something that can be reserved for level 2, and I mostly put in there just to make you aware that it exists. But you can do tons of stuff with stream editor. As I was putting in the slide, you're editing files without needing to open them, pretty much. Whereas with other functions, you usually need to like look at it, do a cat, see what's in there. Okay, so unique. I mentioned that well, it filters out adjacent duplicate lines, and I put that in adjacent because uh, yeah, that's one mistake that you might make that's gonna be super frustrating unless you figure out like what specifically it does. And you can one of the main common sequences that you'll see is like sort, pipe to unique, and count, and then pipe to sort NR. Like that's one of the common methods you'll use. But if you have like a duplicate adjacent duplicates, it might filter that out, and your count might be wrong at the end. So WC, I mentally abbreviate that as a word count, but there are other options you can use for that with that tag. Okay, yeah. Sort, okay, yeah. Sort, it sorts files by ascending order, but if you use the NR tag, it sorts them by descending order. Yeah. I there's not too much to talk about here as well. Besides, like for example, the K tag. So this was something that I encountered during a previous NCL individual game where you had to like sort by hours, minutes, time. So you use the T tag and with colon as your field separator, and then you essentially like use K to like sort by the first column, then the second field, then the third field. Okay. So the first of the main functions I'm going to talk about is going to be grep because that's one of something that I know a lot of people here have said that they do somewhat struggle with. So the main idea is you search and match text phrases. You usually put quotes around them if you want, and honestly, I uh, I think like the best way to showcase it in action is using one of the challenges that I designed. So we'll get to that in just a minute. So, and then Aug, honestly, level 2, maybe even beyond that, that's going to be like creating actual Aug files. But for now, we're just going to create one-liners for it. And don't worry if like you might be a bit overwhelmed by how many options I put on there. Like, if you try to solve these problems with the assistance of AI, they'll usually put out the correct one-liner for you. These are just for your personal understanding. Yeah, special variables. I also like add like one last note for how you can count sort lines without having to use unique, so you don't end up with like that adjacent duplicate error. One of the things you'll learn about these log analysis tools is that there are a lot of ways to approach the same problem. So just keep your mind open if you see something and you think that you could do it in a more efficient way, because you usually would be correct. Okay. Right. So as you can see, the log looks something like this, and this is kind of a modified mashup of a couple of NCL challenges I've seen in the past. So. With the first question, how many total post requests were made? So first, this is going to be a pretty simple grep operation. We're just looking for HTTP post. So first, this command, and it highlights helpfully all of the occurrences of that specific text pattern, and then we simply pipe that word count L. Okay, so that's a pretty easy warm up. Next, we have how many users, unique users logged in during the entire log span. So, going back to step one of the process I showed earlier, we need to first see like what's it asking for. Simply, so so we can see that there's a user action login log out. That so therefore we need to grep for action login. And so here's where I would say we encounter our first instance of using awk. Uh, Currently, we need to print the third field, well, which represents the actual user. So, but first, before we pipe that, let me show you what I mean. So, the timestamp is going to be field one. The second field is just going to be the phrase user, and then the third field's going to be the actual username itself, and the field separator is a space. So if, for example, if we pipe that to awk, we put quotes around it so that it parses properly. And then in curly brackets, we put the operation print field three. When you see a dollar sign in awk, it means field. So let's see. Yeah, and that just outputs a list of like every single instance of like user logging in and the user itself. So then we pipe that to sort. So that sorts alphabetically. Yeah. Mm. Right. So now that we've sorted, we can then use unique's function of removing adjacent duplicates to just get a, unique user. So we can just pipe in a plain unique here, and then following from the previous problem, word count line. So that's problem two. All right. The third problem states that you can use either get or post requests. So this is where we use the e tag for grep, which is extended regular expressions. So regular, non-extended regular expressions using grep, you go character by character. But if you use extended regular expressions, you can like group specific characters. You can reference them later on in the expression. You can do much more. So, but first, if we're asking for HTTP requests, we'd grab HTTP first. So access log. All right. So, and then what we do is grep tag e get, and then we use the or sign. So we can say grep e get post. So here it includes all post and get requests. There's in this log there shouldn't be any other get or other types of requests other than post and get. But if there's like a head request in your log somewhere, then this that counts as standard HTTP. Never mind, I was just rambling. So then right, so domain of the third standard HTTP request. So if we look back at the output here, this would be the fourth field. So following from problem two, we'd use awk to print out the fourth field. So that would simply be awk create a four. All right. So now we get a list of all the domains that are made by the standard HTTP request. However, we essentially need to uh, remove like the HTTP colon slash slash part. Now, uh, of course, like since it's just asking for the third standard HTTP request, we can solve it through visual inspection. It's internet local, but now let's do it the fun way with the one-liner. So in this case, now that we have this list of all the domains, we can use the cut function. So what I can do is cut, we delete a slash F3. Yeah. So slash is essentially so the slash here is essentially the field separator, and then we're taking the third field. So the first field would be this HTTP colon. The second field would be between these two slashes, and a third field would be the uh, domain itself. And then the fourth field would be whatever this would be. But now that we have this list, yeah, now we just need to take the third request, which here is where we can use sed. So for example, yeah, and this specific sed command would give you the third request itself. That's the third question done. Okay. The fourth question asks which user IP made the most login attempts. So we know that we're essentially going back to action login access log. Yeah. So which user made the most login attempts? So here's in this situation we can use one of the special variables I mentioned in the presentation, which is nf. So awk print nf. So one useful thing to remember here is that I include the dollar sign before NF. So NF, sorry, is essentially the number of fields there are, and then the dollar sign is just like the field that corresponds to that value. To show you what I mean, if I remove the dollar sign from here, it is 7 because each line of this log has 7 fields. Uh, Essentially, $NF gives you the very last field of the record. So, yeah. So now that we have a list of all the user IPs, we can then do the sort unique C sort and our pipeline I mentioned earlier. Yeah. So we're sorting, counting, sorting by descending, and this essentially tracks the number of occurrences of each IP within this log. Now, this would also delete all the adjacent duplicates, but let's not worry about that for now. And then finally, well, this can also be solved through visual inspection as well. It's this. Mm, But we yeah, can do an alternative way instead of using stream editor, which is awk nr equals 1.2. Okay. Yeah, so it's just printing the second field. Okay, that's the fourth question then. Finally, we have the fifth question, which is what is the third most frequently accessed domain in the log, including all request types? So we'd be creating like a HTTP grep first. So access log. Mm, yeah. Okay. Now, here's where we can use an extended regular expression where we can actually get the domains with an extended regular expression. So, where we use grep. Yeah, yeah. So, I posted in the slideshow. There's a resource that shows you a bunch of meta characters. It shows you the functions of a bunch of these grep filters, so to speak. And what it's essentially what we're essentially putting in the regular expression is that we put HTTP colon slash slash, and then essentially any number of characters like after that that don't include that slash. Yeah. But now we can essentially like do some of the same commands that we did earlier. So we cut the slash with the third field. So now we get the clean domains. Yeah. But yeah, then we put that through the same sort unique C sort and our pipeline. And we get a sort list of the most frequently accessed domains. And then from there, we can just do visual inspection to get that value.